Hello, and thank you for coming to the McWaters Effect. I'm your host, Matt. Today we're going to be looking at Josh Hawley and his antitrust bill. But first, I need you to hit the like and subscribe button. And don't forget to please share the video. It helps the channel grow. Now let's get on with the show. Here's a story here. Josh Hawley proposes a ban to curb growth of the biggest U.S. tech companies. That's not 100% true. Yes, he wants to curb tech companies, but he also wants to curb all corporations, whether they're banks, big tech, oil, whatever you want to have. He's going after all of them with this bill. But first, before we go to the next story, I'd like you guys to watch this video where Josh Hawley is talking to Tucker Carlson about the bill.
Josh Hawley from Missouri has just introduced a modern trust-busting agenda. The plan would ban mergers and acquisitions by firms with a market cap over $100 billion. It would also authorize the Federal Trade Commission to regulate dominant digital firms in online markets. Joining us tonight to explain exactly what this would mean and how it might help is Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. What a day you chose to do this. Hours after we learned that the biggest companies in the world are conspiring to change election law. Pretty amazing timing, and not a moment too soon. Tell us what this would do, your plan.
Well, what it would do, Tucker, is actually put the American people back in control of their democracy and no longer these mega corporations. And we've got to remember what our founders knew, which is that monopolies and liberty are not compatible. No corporation should be so big and so powerful that it can control the political process, that it can override the will of the voters. And that's exactly what today's mega corporations who've gotten big and fat with the help of government, what they're trying to do. So here's what my plan would do. First of all, it would break up the big tech companies. Make them spin off their various parts. For instance, Amazon should not be able to have the dominant e-commerce platform and also control the cloud. It would break up the big corporations. No more mergers and acquisitions by the biggest companies in America. Don't allow the big banks to get any bigger. Tough new penalties for corporations that violate our trust laws, and also a new ability for prosecutors to go after these trusts. And at the end of the day, Tucker, a new focus for antitrust law, which is this. It ought to be about promoting competition. Freedom is protected when there's competition, not when there's monopoly.
So the whole reason we have antitrust law is because when you have monopolies, everything beneath them withers and dies. You don't have a real market when you have monopolies. We're watching that now. Why are you the only person who's noticing this in the Congress?
Well, I think for a long time, conservatives have thought that the market, if left to its own devices, will operate smoothly and will ensure freedom. The problem is that when you get monopoly power like this, it crushes competition, and so the market doesn't really operate. You don't get a truly free market. You get a market dominated by a few powerful entities. And the other thing we're learning is this. When you have mass consolidation of economic power, political power follows. Why is it these corporations are able to blackmail Georgia? Why is it that they're able to threaten these other states? It's because they're so powerful. They've achieved monopoly status. This is another reason we've got to break them up. They're too politically powerful because they're too economically powerful.
This is why they want you off the stage. I noticed this is why they're calling you an insurrectionist, because you talk like that. Quickly, do you have a hope of getting people on your side? Republicans, and by the way, Democrats. Will anyone join you in this much-needed effort?
I sure hope so. I sure hope so, Tucker. And I think that on the Republican side, you're really seeing eyes opened to the power and danger of these monopolies. I think voters already know it. I mean, they're living it. They're being censored on social media. They're living in fear of that these banks are going to cancel them, if these big corporations are going to cancel them. And I think that elected officials, Republican elected officials, are listening to voters, are opening their eyes, are realizing the dangers, and it's time to do something about it. It's time to protect the people's liberty.
I hope you will come back and give us the names of those senators who stand in your way. I think it's that important. So I hope you'll promise to do that. Senator Hawley, thank you.
Okay, this headline's a little bit more accurate. Hawley proposes new trust-busting initiative. This country and this government shouldn't be run by a few mega corporations, Hawley said in a statement to Axios. We tried it the way that big corporations wanted, and it hasn't been a success for the American consumer, for the American producer, or for the American economy. This proposal would ban mergers and acquisitions by companies with a market cap over $100 million and grant the Federal Trade Commission additional powers to regulate and dominate digital firms. Additionally, the replace the current standard of consumer harm used to identify and break up monopolies with a new standard of protections and competition. Hawley says that the Republican Party has got to become the party of the trust busting once again, pointing to Teddy Roosevelt's efforts at breaking up monopolies at the turn of the 20th century. Hawley has made a name as a big tech hawk and introducing proposals to end targeting behaviors in advertising at data tracking and addictive features such as endless scrolling. The senator's economic proposals, including a standalone bill for a round of direct payments to Americans amid the corona pandemic, have found common ground with progressives such as Bernie Sanders. In another initiative, Hawley proposes an overhaul of the Federal Trade Commission that would place the agency under the authority of the Justice Department. The thing is, they brought up Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Roosevelt is the one that created the Progressive Party. Not only that, another thing he did as well is he did do antitrust laws, but another thing he did as well is conserved a lot of land out west. Made it where it was federal government owned, couldn't be torn down, trees, such so on and so forth. And it's what's kept the land out there as pristine as it has, especially in like places like Yellowstone and places like that. But a lot of Republicans aren't anything like Teddy Roosevelt anymore. They're more like a Ted Cruz. Josh Hawley is definitely someone that makes you think of Teddy Roosevelt. He thinks a lot like him, especially when it comes to trust busting issue. And trust busting is something that Republicans were completely against, especially after Teddy Roosevelt. And the ones that broke up Standard Oil wasn't Republicans. It was actually Woodrow Wilson. So this bill would actually go after not only big tech, it'd go after banks, oil companies, so on and so forth. So this is something I don't think any of them would like. Now it's time on the show where I give my opinion. Do I think this bill is going to work out? I think it would work out. Do I think it's going to get passed? Absolutely not. And the reason it's not going to get passed because it would work out. Now, do I think it might get passed in the next 4 or 5 years? Maybe. Just depends on who wins the presidency next election. I don't think it'll be this president that'll do it because he likes it the way it is. Now, when it comes to Josh Hawley, I think whoever's running for president, which I think Josh Hawley is someone I would like to see run for president. I don't see him getting a nomination now, but I think he's someone to work well as a vice president. Whoever runs in 2024, I like to see them pick him as the vice president candidate because he has a lot of libertarian viewpoints as well as a lot of, I would say, more progressive viewpoints. And this would definitely go with the progressive viewpoint. Libertarians aren't big into trust busting. Now, what he agrees with libertarians on is when it comes to legalizing drugs or marijuana for most part, and also gay marriage. But I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's someone to look out for in the Republican Party. Now it's time for my quote of the day, and I decided to do John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. All right, guys, it's the end of the show. So please hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Peace.